Hey there, and welcome back to Divulgence, everybody. Obviously, we got a full house, full packed house. We got the Occult rejects in the house, along with myself and Hasberg Jolly West. So we have Jules, Brandon Lee, Nick, Ethan, who we have all met before, and we also have Jin, Sanre, the Loon, and Euros up in the house. So yeah, I'm super excited to and happy to meet you guys, and it's great to have the rest of you here. It's like a freaking party here. So I guess before we get started, let's jump into just quick introductions from those who haven't been on the show yet. Why don't we start with you, Jin? We'll go with we'll start with you, Jin.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Jordan and Jolly West, Habsburg Jolly West. Thank you so much. Props to you guys for letting all the rejects on. Of course, Boss, Mr. 93, can't forget to shout out the Cardinal. So if people want to check me out, they can check me out. My show's called Threshold Saints. I call it Serial Experiments in Speculative Ontology. And so it's a show about chaos magic, Dharma, like I'm a tantric Buddhist, and also speculative Gnosticism. We also have a metamagical roundtable called the Grey Lodge, which happens every Friday or every second Friday, depends on how creative I'm feeling to do titles. But every 2 weeks, there's definitely a book club. Eros is a co-host on it, as well as obviously I'm a co-host on it, and we've got two other boys who've all been on Rejects and who all have been on my show, Threshold Saints. So if people want to check me out, they can follow Threshold Saints at Threshold Saints. Substack.com or on Spotify, Apple, on IG at Threshold Saints, on X at Threshold Saints, as well as on YouTube now, all the Threshold Saints episodes, as well as the Grey Lodge. You can find that on youtube.com/@Threshold Saints. So I'm a really good speculative Kabbalist as well. So I'll shout myself out for that. But yeah, I kind of am the menace of the internet for that reason. So thank you guys so much for having me on, and it's great to be on with everybody.
Right on, man. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. Loon, you're up. Please introduce yourself. It's a pleasure to meet you. Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. This should be exciting. I'm the Loon, aka Judith Swanson. I actually broadcast on Spreaker, X, and Loon, and YouTube. Sorry, and I basically touch on everything. Basically, everything spiritual that I am aware of. You can find me as the Loon there.
Perfect. Right on. Well, again, it's great to have you here. Sanre, my friend, great to see you. I love your beard, man. You got a kick-ass beard going on there. We love our beards here, so props to you.
Thank you.
Other than your beard, what else can you tell us about yourself, my friend?
So my name is Sanre. I host the Order of Chaos Occult University. We have a YouTube channel, the Order of Chaos. And I was a chaos magician, I guess you could say, for a very long time, and that evolved into what I call chaos witchcraft, which is a more spiritual approach to chaos magic. It's a theistic approach, which I talked about in an essay I did in This is Chaos with Peter Carroll. And then that turned into a full-length book, which you can pre-order on Amazon now. It's called Chaos Witchcraft. I am primarily a teacher of magic, and I am a YouTuber second to that. Much prefer teaching than making YouTube videos, but you gotta do what you gotta do. You can find all my stuff at theorderofchaosmagic.com. Check it out.
Cool. Awesome. That's interesting. Wow, interesting. So much interesting stuff. We're gonna have to do. I'll have to bring all you guys back for like some one-on-one discussions because. Yeah, we're not going to be able to fit it all today. Euros, great to have you as well. Pleasure to meet you. What can you tell us? I think you're muted.
Eros, you're muted.
Eros, you're muted. She's pulling a Jules.
Might be muted.
Is this better?
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, awesome.
Sorry about that. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to meet you as well. I'm a hermeticist, astrologer, Platonist. I'm really into the Tetractys and the Hermetic principles and kind of working with like that Jungian psychoid layer. And I have a YouTube channel, Aerosup. I make videos sometimes, usually like very meta, just meta discussions around like astrology and Platonism and archetypes, Jung, some studies on like Plotinus in there, the Enneads. So if you're interested in any of that, you'll probably enjoy it.
Wow. Okay. So we have like so many different specialists, so to speak, in the house here. I mean, we could talk about so much, really. So why don't we go? I mean, let's just start, I guess, about maybe we'll just start going around the table. Jules, let's start with you. I know you had a whole bunch of stuff that you were talking about before. So let's just kick it off somewhere, and we'll see what kind of fun we have. What kind of shit have you been working on, my friend? I know you named a few things, but pick one, and let's kick that around.
Am I doing an introduction too, or am I?
Sorry?
Am I doing like the intro too to who I am, or?
Oh, sorry.
No.
Yeah.
I just
sorry, man. I just kind of did that for the newcomers, but
no. Okay. No. Sorry. I completely. I thought you were coming back around. What's up?
I love you guys too. Tell us about who you are, man. I don't want you to feel left out. Come on.
What's up, guys? I'm Jules, host of the Greypilled Podcast.
Fuck yeah.
The Mississippi Mystic, the handsome Hierophant, the based bard, the Hyperborean Hermit. I have a couple. I have a couple shows I do. Gods of the Morning Wood and Occult Cinema. One's fairly new. We've had 4 episodes on there. They're both Patreon shows, but it's really what I'm doing right now, trying to build up the Greypilled community a little more. So you can go to Patreon to support the show there. Yeah, I mean, dude, I talk about a lot of occult symbolism, where our symbols come from and kind of taking back our symbols and being able to use them, because I do believe they are being used against us, both consciously and subconsciously. And I talk a lot about ancient history, ancient pantheons, a lot about egregores. Lately been getting into the symbolism of Sabazius and a little bit of the Thracian pantheon and kind of how those myths link up with Greece, and then just a lot of stuff we talk about on my show. Throughout the years, I've talked about, like lineages of fallen angels and these different archetypes that you find throughout every culture that kind of line up with, and then we come to today. And so I don't know, man, I just, Greypilled, we cover a lot on there, so just got to check it out. I had Crow 777 on, Crow 777. Nice. Shout out Crow. I had him on yesterday. It was a banger episode, and so yeah, man. But Patreon is where you'll find most of my stuff right now. I know we had talked prior to the show about topics for the evening, and me and Nick, I think, brought up servitors and thought forms and stuff. That's one big thing we've talked about on my show. But yeah, dude, lately just, I don't really have anything planned. Like I said, Gods of the Morning Wood, Occult Cinema. We just did on last Wednesday, broke down Donnie Darko, me and Jonathan from Metamystics. Yeah, it was fun.
That's cool. What's going on there? Okay, I'm going to come back to you.
Yeah, we did together. That was good. Just real quick, Jules, you should mention the stuff you do with the books too, real quick, because I think that's a huge plus.
Which books?
That's a Saturday morning show, Gods of the Morning Wood.
Gods of the Morning Wood. Yeah. Okay. So we have a wheel, and we kind of let the wheel choose the books for us. And it's funny, sometimes it's very synchronistic, but yeah. So I have Nick comes on. I have Subliminal Messenger, Season of the Rat, Stax Farmstead, Zaralath Eternal has come to a few of them lately. So we kind of get together, all these people of these different backgrounds and these different schools of thought, and we all kind of, give our own interpretation of the books that we're reading. We read Gnostic text, all the way to the sagas and the Eddas, to treatises on magic, right? So like we cover a lot on that show, but it's one way to look at the occult from these different perspectives. Because when you view the occult through this one particular lens, especially what's pushed on in kind of the mainstream and like the conspiracy community, it's all dark and evil, and it's it all comes from this place of like a negative representation, kind of, right? So there's way more to it, and I think if you're a fan of the Occult Rejects, then by now, or if you're your own adept, whatever you want to say, you're on your own path and you figured this stuff out along the way. So Gods of the Morning Wood is a show where people can come together, discuss their different views on things, and we kind of come to this the same conclusions about a lot, at the same time learning. And but yeah, no, it's something I really, you see a lot of people go, well, books are gay, or books are, and it's like, what's happened to humanity? There's nothing quite like a book, I don't think.
I agree, man.
Even I love PDF. With the book, you have like the way the pages smell. You have to turn the pages. You have to interact with
it, right? You have to like,
yeah.
You gotta exchange energy with the actual book. Yeah.
So I wish we could do like a little sit around, like read thing, but I do have actually a lot of physical copies, especially of the Hall treaties that the beginning of the show was just us covering these Manly P. Hall.
Okay.
Yeah, little short books, but then it turned into something much bigger, and now it's become a big part of what Grey Pilled is, considering my spiritual path. So
cool, man.
Yeah,
right on.
Thank you, Nick.
I'll come back to you. I got something to throw your way, but Brandon, let's go with you, buddy. What would you like to tell everyone about yourself? Give us your intro.
Nice. Welcome, one and all, to this fine evening with this great panel. I'd like to say, if everyone hasn't, they should have heard of the Occult Rejects and all of us clans of rejects. It's a fascinating conversation we tend to have on a consistent basis, because mainstream media is always trying to tether us as being dicks and demons, as the great Nick Cardinal Head is always telling us. But that's not what we're all about. This is about the reality of the soul. I am from the Magus in the media, just Magus in the media. We're all great magi if we tune in, turn on, and don't drop out, but drop into the embodied experience. And that's basically what Magus in the media is all about: myth, magic, and meaning, and realizing that fiction is bleeding into reality, or that reality is finding give way to the great fiction that we are all experiencing. And I think, as well as I think many of us believe, the only way to truly break free from the matrix is to do what? Kung Fu and learn magic. And so that's basically what I think the great red pill for all of existence is if we can find the embodied experience and be able to truly break free, is to break in and not be afraid of the freedom that we all have within. That's
I love that, man. To break free, we got to break in. Okay.
But you also have a lot of. Sorry, I just don't want. I don't want him to leave out some of the things about himself on the show, which I noticed Jules did for himself too. You the Platonism and stuff and all that. I mean, you're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
Don't you get into that a lot? I mean,
I do.
That
Thank you,
part
Nick.
of what you get into.
It is. So I myself, just to break out of the grand announcer, is that I have degrees in philosophy and classical literature, as well as I teach martial arts during the daytime. And so in my channel, I'm continually breaking us down into basically how to tap into philosophia. It's another way of magic to be able, it's like an ancient form of magic to truly find the introspective and reflection of reality, and to tap into the great, as Jin would say, the aeon of Sophia, but Sophia as this something that sits in consort with the masculine aeon of the Christos. And these two together, you can tap into, as Eros's name states, Eros up, the divine passion of madness, as we try to transcend, but that's not truly what we're trying to do. This is a word that gets mixed up a lot, is that we don't want to transcend too much because we want to truly just become human. And that's a lot of things that I've been talking about. So on my channel as well, I interview a lot of individuals, scholars and philosophers and practitioners. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find basically this throughway on this map of how modernity has lost its way in this functionalist, mechanistic, postmodern worldview where meaning has been grasped away from reality. And this dystopian surveillance state is basically being built all around us. And the ways to, I think, battle against the great archons of the transhumanist parasitic oligarchic class is to do exactly what all of these fellow rejects are talking about on all of their channels, which is why we get along so well, is because we're all trying to, in our own way, not only help ourselves by also talking about the things that basically aren't being talked about in the mainstream. And then we all kind of break away into our own worldviews through our own nervous system, because I've been highly affected by two things in my life, which is high dosages of entheogens in my younger 20s, philosophy, and then that other one is the band Tool. And so I think that if we have the ability to un-MK Ultra ourselves in this great inverted dark republic that we're in, then we can become more than the animal state that people want to always basically stay within, and just become human. And so then on my channel, I'm doing video essays and I'm breaking down the science fiction and the fantasy. I'm a huge manga nerd. And so I love anime and manga and comic books, because the idea is that we're trying to become our own anime characters, the highest epitome of what a human can be, and tap into these extraordinary states of consciousness through magic and kung fu, which are basically two different words for the same thing, as I try to say. So thank you, Nick, for helping me expand on that.
No, cool, man. I saw Parabolus a few weeks ago, a Tool cover band from Montreal.
Nice.
Good. Ethan, you're up, buddy. Good to see you again.
Well, peace to everybody, and let me just underline what everyone's just said, that to really follow the whole crew, because everyone brings such amazing information. A lot of it might be divergent, a lot of it mostly overlaps. And I joke, you don't need AI, you need OI. You need the occult intelligence that we form. I believe it's a great mix of authentic human beings that we have here. I am an author and interested in spirituality since before I really knew what the concept was, I suppose. And I am also a Tai Chi practitioner like Brandon, and a meditator. And I've written about sacred geometry and Tahuti, Thoth, and even exoteric politics as well. Again, I appreciate everyone. And thank you, Nick, for putting together all this and doing what you do.
Nick, you're up, buddy.
Yeah, also Ethan's got a fuck ton of books he never promotes either, so I'm just gonna mention that for him. He has a lot of books. You should go check it out. He's a prolific writer. He just doesn't want to admit it. Me, yeah, Nick from the Occult Rejects. I mean, I don't try to really write off the whole ex-OTO member anymore, but that is part of my story. But I am into the Kabbalah. I try to mix science with magic. I'm very much into the academia side as well. I try to cover things that are a little bit more out of the box, kind of, when it comes to my solo stuff. And when it comes to the Occult Rejects, like when we have groups like this, everybody is different and everybody has their own specialty. And I know I've joked around and said before, but like I really do mean it. And like it really is kind of very much like the same thing as Wu-Tang Clan. Everybody here has their own outlet as well. They are able to stand on their own and be able to do their own without being here. You know, they're all really good at what they're doing in their own way, and we get to come together. And I think it's an amazing experience. And I could even say at this point, with everybody that's on the show, I could actually say I'm like really proud to actually be surrounded by these individuals, because I don't know it all. You know what I'm saying? Like back in the day, you had to be a polymath to really understand what the hell's going on. And I ain't no polymath, so that's why I got everybody else here. You know, like maybe we could all form one at the end of the day, you know, but, yeah, that's my thing. You know, and a little bit like kind of like Jules was saying, a major part of the show is to demystify the occult. It's not as bad as everybody thinks it is. I do believe you can actually have a conscious contact with God or whatever you want to call it, and that can change you for the better. I think actually at that moment, that's when you really have to make a decision. Am I going to become a better person with this, or am I going to manipulate individuals? But I think when you have that experience, you are given an option to really do something great for the world and try to help people. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show people there's a way to have an experience with God. And a lot of the material out there that shows you that is not as bad as it is. Like somebody said earlier, it's not all dicks and demons. You know?
That's right. That is
so.
Right,
Yeah, that's what I.
That's getting put on a shirt fairly soon.
Yeah, we're gonna put that on a shirt big time.
Yeah.
I'll buy that shirt. Cool, man. Cool. And my boy Hadsberg, thank you for being here, man. For those on the Occult Rejects side watching, and yeah, for those who are new, tell us a little bit about yourself, my bro.
You know, just you know, work on this show with you, Jordan. You know, kind of I don't have like a deep background in, you know, occult practice or anything like that, but you know, I have a sense of how these things, you know, relate with you know, deep history, and you know, kind of the way that you know, the you know, kind of more deep, you know, deeper workings of, you know, like the human experience, and you know, are predicated on a lot of these things. So I'm looking forward to having this chat with you guys. You know, I definitely like watched your show, you know, and just yeah, appreciate you know, being in the mix with you guys.
It's good to have you, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
Right on. Well, there we go. Now that we got that done, next time we do a big panel like this, we can refer them to this episode for introductions. All right.
Sunray, did you ever go? Yeah, you did, right?
Yeah.
I think everyone had to go. I think.
Okay.
Did I miss anyone?
Yeah, no.
Judith?
Because
Judith. Yeah, what about the loon?
No.
I was short and brief.
Oh, you were short and brief. Nice.
Way better than me, Judith. I can't help it, dude. You have to understand, my intros to some of my shows are 30 minutes, like for music and like themes.
Oh, we know, Jules.
Jules, you know.
We know. We know. We watch. We see.
We know.
No, him and Jin, man. Whew. Put them back to back. Oh.
Well, I think what actually is a great start, not to take over here, but is actually you should tell us what you think of the occult and what magic is, and then we can respond and set you straight.
Oh man.
What? Yeah, let's go. Yeah. Tell us.
Jeez, okay.
On the spot, Jordan. Let's get it.
Synopsis.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of the occult, I mean, I there's so many different things that I kind of think of, really. You know, like you think of like secret societies, you think of symbols, you know, secret handshakes, secret orders, rituals or magic. A lot of the stuff that everyone kind of mentioned going around the table. But like, this is interesting though. If you were to ask me like, what is it? I mean, I could give you like an AI or a shitty definition.
Don't do that.
No, exactly.
Yeah, don't do that.
But no, so bouncing it back to you, what should the average person know, the everyday Joe who doesn't study that stuff, who doesn't even necessarily listen to podcasts about it, no knowledge of it, what should their basic understandings be of like you said, the definition of a cult?
Yeah, and okay, nice.
Let me jump in here, Brandon, because you got quite a while already. So I'll just do a quick, short one. I think magic happens in your mind. I think everybody should meditate. Everybody should get your mind right. Then you can travel the chaos or astral travel if you want to be really vulgar. And I do think faith is important. Like, I'd love to hear I'm actually interested in asking Sanray a question. I don't know if it's like putting him on the spot, but like he talked about how he sort of modified his approach to chaos magic to include more of a spirituality or a religious framework. And because I'm a Tantric Buddhist, and Tantric Buddhism is very similar because it's post-theistic in many ways. I'm not saying I don't believe in the supernatural or spirits, but I tend to, especially when I'm on panel shows, Nick knows this, everybody who's paneled with me knows this, I tend to issue things like ghosts, gross overt acts of magic, and like spirits in general, or deities even, just simply because I use a post-theistic framework myself. So it would be incorrect to say that, for me at least, in the way I describe magic, to say that it is it's something borrowed. I actually think it comes from us. I think it's from our inner luminosity. I think you have to cultivate that. I think it's really hard work. I don't think it's like happens overnight, but I do think that everybody can do the basics and meditate and like figure out a way to sort of rest in primordial consciousness, and then you can do real stuff, do real shit.
And I'd say that anything that is manifested, whether you don't, unintentionally or through magic, through ritual and practice, it originates. It first comes from that mental zone, right? That mental plane, which is why emotions they can really they can affect your life very heavily. How you view things, your perception of things, and the mental plane is like you said, you want to get your shit together and get your head on straight.
Well, and another thing I was thinking of when I was even asking the question is the idea so people can understand the differentiation between the exoteric and the esoteric. It's like when you go to a church, right? You go to church and, you read the Bible and you're going through, if that's the church you're going to, just for the example, is that you have a priest at the front of the pulpit giving his dictation of psalms or sermons or whatever it is, and the people sit in the pews, and then they will let whatever wash over them, they sing, and then they leave, and then they don't think about it anymore. The esoteric, that's for the masses. Exoteric is for the masses. The esoteric is for the select few, and that's not like an aristocratic type of thing where it's like hierarchy, really. But the idea is that underneath the surface of those things, you, instead of being in the pews as the masses, you become the priest, you become the magi, and you become somebody who is actually seeking out gnosis, is what they call it. They call it the direct experience of ofness, of God, of the universal, whatever these things are, of the natural forces. And so it's like letting the ritual of the orthodoxy of the Catholic rituals, or of the ceremonial rituals, of your everyday experience kind of wash over you, and you tap into something else. I think that's an easy way of trying to describe it, that you are trying to directly experience the numinous aspects of the ecstatic experiences of divinity, or whatever that is for you with your nervous system.
Yeah. I would also say that it's about a lot of the time connecting to this higher image of ourselves that's repeating trope, or in doing so, like connecting to this higher part of yourself, or in connecting with this like higher layer of reality. You kind of, in doing that, it changes your external world as well, because there's like this recursive relationship between the self and the universe, and it's just tapping into that.
It's the micro macro arrows. Yeah. And it's the allegory of pulling your sword from the stone, right? You're gravitating more towards your higher self or your higher being.
And to just jump off something that Jules was talking about, I agree with what Jules and Eros just said 100%. But I think it's also about, like Jules was bringing up, books, like how much he loves books and how his shows turned largely into sort of this study of his own ideas of mysticism in the world. Well, that's very Binah, right? Like that's like when you're reading the text, it's the black ink on the white page. That is, if you are actually engaging with it at like an intellectual level, that is Binah. That is how you are understanding it. The experiential things, like the things that you might think of or associate with it, correspondences, that is Hokmah, that is wisdom, right? Eros said it in the chat. So when you bring those two things together, experiential wisdom and intellectual book knowledge, maybe religious, even textual knowledge, that creates Dath. I would posit that Dath, non-dual gnosis, as Brandon said, is not on the tree. I know a lot of Hermetic Kabbalists place it on the tree. A lot of post-Lurianic Kabbalists actually take it away because it's actually something that you go to within your mind. So this also references what Eros is saying. There is a direct dialogical relationship. Dialogical, I'm using that word very specifically because the word is magical. Pretty much all religious traditions, no matter if they're jungle magic or high ceremonial magic, we all pretty much agree that the word is magic. Now, how do you activate it? How do you engage it? That is the real sort of points of differentiation between traditional esoteric systems and like where you imagine the word to arise. So in Buddhism, we would say the word arises in the primordial space. That's why you have to meditate, get your mind right, get yourself able to sort of go there. And then once the word arises, then you can interact with it in that dialogical way that Eros was talking about, because you can also imagine that as your higher self. So you're going to ride the chariot or ride the arrow all the way. There's not really a pun, but it kind of is. It's a joke on Samek, which is the secret letter between Yesod and Tiferet. So the sun and the moon, you want to go beyond that into the space that is infinite, basically. And it's the aeon of the daughter, Brandon. You know that. You said that on purpose.
Yeah. It's true.
It is also worth. Oh, sorry.
Please, Iris, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's also worth mentioning that it's also about like resolving karma, if you want to use that word, like resolving this Saturnian sticky stuff, and then like doing like soul level self authorship in a way, like and then like having this conscious like I don't know, relationship with like your own fate.
To
Absolutely.
piggyback on what Jen was mentioning about the word, if you look at all ancient texts, popular religion, the ones that we basically feed on for knowledge, on spiritual work, every one of them mentions the word. So if you look at occult is understanding the meaning between the words, not just the word itself, but understanding and coming to a clarity of what is really intended by using those words.
And may I add to that I feel like the occult is in fact a broad term for the study of the mind and the grammar of the world, the word of understanding the mysteries, and as all these things are occulted, one of the things we should consider is the reason why they are hidden is because of the power of the mind, right? And so that's, I think, a big important lesson as to why there are occulted schematics that could drive self-empowerment and so forth and so on. It's hidden because it's useful, I think.
And as much as we're talking about the mind, which I completely agree with both Ethan and Jin when they speak of like magic happens within the mind, it's a really important thing to get back to the idea is that the separation, the dualism that Cartesian philosophy and the Enlightenment period did to us is it separated mind from body. And so truly, I think when you are on the path of apotheosis or your Gnostic awakening means that you have a body that has a soul and, like it's an integration of an embodied experience. Why Heidegger called it being there, or Dasein, or being in the world, is because we can't get away from the world. And so magic, as Crowley would state, the art and science of causing change and conformity to one's will. The art and science, as Nick was saying, or as we, the art being that you are within the world doing magic. We are humans in an embodied experience. And so to understand that the mind is within the universe, but the universe is within the mind, we come to this Russian doll, Zen koan type of thing, where it's like, what's the sound of one hand clapping? It's the idea that we are inherently have this contradiction that we're trying to unite and unify, and it's in that contradiction where magic is made. And then, as the great Kabbalist Jin, is always talking about on our streams together, and just in all things, I'm the same way, a great Kabbalist in and of myself. Jin and I are going to have a debate and battle eventually, but it's like Samurai Champloo, Jin versus what's his name? Mugen, thank you. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to have lo-fi hip hop playing. Nujabes is all over the place. Not my point. The point is,
referee. Can I be the
please,
referee?
Nick, you actually have to be the referee.
You'll have to clean up the slaughter.
Yeah.
Off the floor.
Yeah, let's fucking go. But the idea is that, in even this, that Jin and I play this game of this contradiction. But once we cross the abyss, we find, as in a Kabbalistic tree of life terms, we find a unification within the supernal, which means is that like we are humans having this experience in the world, in Malkuth and the daughter, because we are trying to awaken to our experience. And that happens with more than just the mind. As we know in our embodied practices, the mind is getting the body under control with using our willpower, which is then at the highest forms of magic. It is no different than mysticism. And these two things start to wave back and forth because we're at constant dissonance and harmony between these things. And I just think that's a really important thing that happens is like we want to get away, I think, from the transcendentalism of trying to become more than human. I think personally, through my readings of Dune, which I think is really important, all this is that what happens is we put our animal states under control so we can fully become human. And it's also something I've learned from Tool, but that's my...
I just want to riff really
quick. Sorry about that. Roll in like 10 minutes, guys. I'm so sorry. I have a leader ritual tonight, but I did want to answer Jin's question before I had to do that, which might take me a moment. So bear with me here. So Jin, you asked, you wanted me to explain the difference, right, or how like came to be. So Pete Carroll and I, we've been working on a book together for the last couple of years, and Pete unfortunately passed away just a few weeks ago. One of the things that I kind of realized through that process with him was that, so I'm going to put it this way. The core axiom of both chaos magic and chaos witchcraft, as I teach it, is that belief is a tool. Right now, here's where we differ. Pete was a very staunch materialist. He prescribed to the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics. I am a panpsychist, and I prescribe to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. That's pretty much the entire difference. But as a panpsychist, that allows for a lot of things that people tend to eschew if they are, following the traditional chaos magic path. Astrology, for number one. Astrology is so real, it hurts. Pete hated astrology. A lot of people hate astrology because it describes them far too accurately. Astrology, to me, is real as gravity. Spirits, dealing with spirits. So when people say spirit, number one, you could be having a conversation between 5 people who all think they're talking about the same thing, and they're definitely not. They have different definitions for what spirit is. My definition of spirit is non-physical organized consciousness existing outside of the third dimension, right? So string theory tells us that there are 11 dimensions of physical reality. We live in the third dimension. There's dimensions below and above us, which is a belief that you'll find in almost every religion as well. So if we're talking about non-physical organized consciousness and panpsychism and these things coexisting, right? So if consciousness is the fundamental substance from which all things arise, which is what I believe. In fact, the core teaching of the Order of Chaos Occult University is that we call consciousness and what the ancient world called spirit are exactly the same thing. There's just fundamentally no difference, except that physics recognizes one and makes fun of the other. And that, I think, is hilarious. So non-physical organized consciousness, which is what you are, right? You are consciousness inhabiting a body. There's consciousness that doesn't inhabit a body. There's consciousness that used to inhabit a body. So all of these things work and fit perfectly into just as simply, it is a different framework of physics. And, Pete, when he passed, was 73 years old. And he lived most of his life in a time when materialism was king. But the further we delve into quantum physics, no matter which interpretation you prescribe to, the more we realize that physical reality isn't all that physical to begin with. The physicality is an illusion of the mind, and that there is something that comes before that, which I would call either consciousness or spirit. Doesn't matter. The words are interchangeable.
Thanks, Sonny. That was an amazing explanation. We are reading Epiphanion for our Grey Lodge book club right now, and I know that he did talk about panpsychic universe, which I know Eros has some criticisms of, which is valid, as well as some of our other co-hosts. I had to sort of play defense of some of Pete's ideas, not because I was necessarily in total agreement. I agree with you that there is a materialist sort of inclination to him, but I did like Epiphanion, that book in particular, because I feel like he was really sort of breaking out of where he was really, I felt he was stuck in Liber K in the maths, in the chaos maths. And then he's starting to talk about like K-ball. He's starting to like flex his, real super muscles in Epiphanion rather than like some of the older materials. So that's what sort of excited me about it. And I would love to hear if you have read that book and if you have any sort of like wise words or closing thoughts for that.
I haven't read it yet. No, but it's on my list.
Okay. Well, I highly recommend it personally, and I'll throw it to Eros if she wants to, make a statement on panpsychic universe. But I'm a hyperspace kingdom guy, so I consider it very similar.
Pete was really invested in hyperspherical cosmology. That he was really he believed in it wholeheartedly. Most of my knowledge of Pete is that we've been emailing back and forth for 2 years. I've read Liber Null and Psychonaut, obviously, Cyber Magic, and just an absolute ton of his blogs, but I haven't read the other books yet. I love Pete's work, but when I try to read some of it, I feel like, man, I don't want to do math right now. This isn't fun. It's just not the way that I want to read about magic. So it was easier for me just to interact with him. And because Weiser, who's the publisher of my book, published Pete's books as well, they put us in touch. So I was able to just email back and forth with him for the last 2 years, which is was meant to be a sequel to Interview with the Wizard, and we're kind of working on right now if we're going to actually publish that or not.
Again, thank you so much, Henry. I was hanging up you on the spot a little bit. That was a great answer.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the question. I'm so sorry. I've got to run in a few minutes, guys. I have to lead a ritual tonight. But super cool.
I had a question for you before you go. When you're talking about like chaos witchcraft and stuff, is that similar to Discordianism? I mean, are you affiliated with Discordianism at all?
I read the Principia Discordia many years ago. Not really. I mean, like as a human, like me as an individual, I love absurdity. I love it so much. But no, not so much. Chaos witchcraft is kind of a fusion of ancient wisdom and physics and the belief that magic is real and that belief is a tool. So, a lot of the things that chaos magic traditionally rejected, like astrology, hermetic philosophy, not to say ritual in general, but correspondence, maybe. A lot of the things that Pete was kind of staunchly against, I'm saying, well, why don't we test these things out? And when they work, just incorporate them in the framework and look for an explanation rather than rejecting them kind of on principle.
I'd love to get you on the show sometime and we can talk about this a little deeper, man.
For sure. I'd love to.
That'd be great. Really interesting stuff, man.
All right, I gotta prep for my ritual tonight, guys. Everyone, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much.
Great to meet you.
It's good meeting you, Son Ray.
Great to meet
much.
you. Thank you, Son Ray.
Nick, thanks for inviting me, everyone. And I've been following your YouTube channels as we talk, so I'll get any ones I miss. I'll get them from Nick. Later, guys.
Right on, man. All the best, Sonny.
Thanks, bud.
Cool. Right on. So Jules, you were talking earlier about saboteurs and thought forms.
Servitors.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that all about? Enlighten me a little bit there. Let's go down.
Look into tulpamancy, which comes from Tibetan practices of meditation, and it came from Eastern mysticism into like theosophy through that whole gate, and so it is basically a meditative thought form. Servitors would be something that would serve you, right? It would serve a purpose. It would do your bidding. And Nick actually brought up that there are a lot of ritualistic aspects behind creating these things as well. But Jen brought up the mental plane earlier, and the mental body, like I said, is one of the strongest things that affects us here in the physical realm. That would be, that's why so many people are intimidated through fear, right? It's the strongest emotion. You can't convince me otherwise. But yeah, no. So this is something that you create through very concentrated meditation, right? Now there's some people. There's there's what's her name? There's two females that write extensively on it. One of them, and I've talked about this on several episodes, maybe even on the Occult Rejects. One of them created a tulpa that looked like like Friar Tuck from Robin Hood. Like he had the monk thing on, which is a little like kind of like weird, a little morbid, that it was a monk that manifested, and that may have started with good intention, right? Positive thinking, or like high, but later, like he started to appear to her guests that would come over. And it's not Annie Besant. It's not Annie Besant. It was the other. I'll look for her name, but she eventually had to do. I don't know if maybe Nick can go a little further on this, but I don't know if she had to do like certain rites or rituals in order to, because it started to like fuck with her. It started to take on its own personality. It started to be like a little mischievous, pull chairs out from under people. Now this could have just been some residual haunting, but I mean, taking it from her word that she created this thing. It's not, I don't know too many people that would lie about that. And I'm trying to, because this happened back, early 20th century.
I always have this strange feeling like these types of things, like why create this thing?
Well, I think it was just in practice, right? She was just doing this thing she had learned about from these Buddhist monks over in Tibet, and trying to emulate that. And what do you know? It got out of hand. It's an Eastern practice. She's a Western woman. So it's something you have to.
Well, it's even on both sides. I don't even care that it's an Eastern practice if it's a Western one, because they have them in both, right? The idea of evocation of these things. So I always wonder, it would, no, for sure. But my idea is that I'm coming to in my own magical practices. It's like, is that for God working? I'm not even talking about theurgy. I'm talking about just like for the embetterment of your virtue, as like myself being like a level of a phenomenological Platonist or whatever it is I am. It's like, I wonder about the embodied experience of then doing these evocations. Is it making me a better person? And I think there's a lot of these kind of stories that make occultism seem like it's all Sorcerer's Apprentice stuff. I think
it's a really good point, Brandon. I would even say for myself, and I've said plenty of times that my ideas of magic has changed throughout my magical career. I've made a servitor before, and I did it very ritualistically and ceremonially. And I do believe, I think you have a very good point here. I do believe, this is just my opinion, I know it's very harsh, but I do believe that once you actually start doing stuff to change the world around you, you're already getting into black magic. I think at that point, you're no longer really actually doing anything to come in contact with God. You're just trying to manipulate the world around you.
Yeah.
You're not, so I would agree, like, maybe there is some kind of servitor that could be made for a spiritual reason, but I see what you're getting at. Like that, to me, that would just be like really trying to create something serious to change
Yeah.
the outside world, you know? Because
Definitely.
that's why I did it for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Pardon
your
the
own game.
ignorance. Like when you're referring to servitors, would that be like Saint Germain? Would that be like an example?
No.
No, he
No.
was more of a
Yeah.
an ascended master.
I actually am interested in what Jin has to say because I know Tantra deals with a lot of. Like, Jin, can you give me what you think about this idea of a
Sure.
servitor, please?
Well, I think Jules did a great job. To be honest, I'm not just saying that, but I think Jules did a great job, and I think that he also said like the theosophical gate. That's true. People will ascribe it to Buddhism or specifically Vajrayana or Tantric Buddhism. It's not really. We do have the idea. It's similar, but it's really basically distilled in theosophy. So that was a great call, Jules.
Yeah.
For the episteme, I agree with that. So basically, yes, we do deity, what we call Maha Yoga practices. Now I'm saying deity, and then I went on this long tirade about 20 minutes ago about how I'm post-theistic and I don't deal with spirits and all this, and that is true. But we do have these idea of Buddhas, like what are they? So I'm not going to get into that, but it's ontological rather than cosmological. So it really is post-theurgical in a way. Like you are increasing your self-luminosity and your own clarity. Like, to bring up something what Judith said, like you want to increase your clarity upon the primordial ground. Like when you're seated in meditation, you're trying to go what the Scientologists would call going clear. Like, yes, that is kind of the idea, especially if you practice like Dzogchen. I don't practice Dzogchen, but you'll hear a lot of people who do practice Dzogchen will talk about like this idea of the clarity or luminousness of light. So for us, sometimes, yes, you will cultivate a deity. Again, I'm saying a deity, but it's a Buddhist deity. It's a Buddha. So you are cultivating those qualities. And like what Nick was saying about activity, that's what we would call it in Tantric Buddhism. You can do activity in a post-theurgical way. So you are improving yourself, but you're also sending it out to do magical acts. Now, is the Buddha part of your mind? Yes. Is it 100% part of your mind? No. And this is where I sort of take a different approach from some Buddhists and some chaos magicians. I think most things arise in your consciousness, but I don't think it's all consciousness. I don't think it's all our consciousness. I think there's degrees of, we live in a multiverse. That's pretty basic in Tantra. Like, you have to accept that idea. That's why I can also accept a lot of ideas of chaos magic, because again, they're very similar. So really, if you're creating a thought form, you're creating the Buddhist deity. That's what you're visualizing with specific. It's very specific. It's not just like imaginal, sort of like, R.P. Gordon White, but like, I think he was talking about something a little different than what I'm talking about. He's talking about like imaginal realms, sort of meanderings. I'm talking about riding the aether wave, or like being in like that sort of pristine clarity of mind. But then you're also doing something else. Like I said, it's dialogical. You're going between the moon and the sun if you want to use gross outer astrology, but that's Yesod and Tiferet. And you're sort of, as Gurdjieff would say, I'm just going to use a Gurdjieff term, although it's a kind of a joke that I'm saying it, but he always talks about thrusts, right? Like, that's the idea. But that is the idea also in Tantric Buddhism. We call it Vega, Vajra Vega, the diamond thunder, arrow, chariot, velocity. That's a good way to describe it. So it's sort of an upward movement to the secret gate. So you are doing something. You are implicating yourself in the world. But like what Eros was saying, a big part of what differentiates Tantra from just like any other sorcery is the preoccupation with karma. You are to firstly clear your own karmas, and not just clear them, but also recognize your karmic impact in the world before you undertake magical activity. So the magic stuff really comes a lot later for most people, although you can use that magical activity, Buddhist magical activity, to clear karma. But it takes some skill to like do it without like fucking yourself up or really, going crazy, because a lot of the practices are very difficult. I'm just going to say, and it has nothing to do with sex or anything like crazy. I know everybody loves that. And like, there's a lot of left-hand path people who, will go on podcasts and talk about like Tantra is a transgressive, marga. And yeah, there are left-hand path elements, but it's really nothing like how people represent it. And it's a complete marga in and of itself. Like, I don't really need to call myself a chaos magician, because it already exists for me.
Yeah.
But I like the chaos magic materials because it actually gives me like a way to speak to other Western occultists, just like Kabbalah did. That's even why I learned Kabbalah to begin with, to explain my own tantric experiences. So I had to like learn how to translate it into a Western magical language.
May I pose a maybe a potential reason for how they got confused with the Buddhist creation of egregores and so forth, and servitors, in the idea of the hungry ghosts, which is kind of an archontic force of the Buddhist tradition, and I think very much mirrors the North American concept of the two-hearted or two hearts, mainly from the Southwest Native Americans, that were feeding off of other systems and yet could not have their hunger quenched. And it seems to me that these are very much archontic forces. And instead of posing how we create a force to do X, Y, and Z for us, what about this question? How do we get so rooted and grounded that when we do deal with temptations of Mara and or all these hungry ghosts and parasitic archontic forces, how do we be so grounded that it is, water off a duck type of thing? I feel like that's a parallel idea to the idea of creating these servitors, if you will, is dealing with these non-physical energies, right?
Hungry ghosts are in your own mind. We are the hungry ghosts in one way of thinking, right? At one layer of reality, at least.
Do we
there might be multiple.
Shed the hungry ghosts?
You can defeat the hungry ghost. You can defeat them. Yeah, like a klipa, like a shell, like an aggregate.
Like etheric shell.
And
right?
people are possessed by the hungry ghost. So the hungry ghost can you know what I mean? Like the hungry ghost lives through. Yes, that's exactly it. Like your desires, because the 10 worlds live within us.
You're shedding your lower nature. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But you have to recognize that, like in Tantra, we don't say your lower natures are evil. They are utilized to very much like a lot of Western magic. They are utilized to transmute into greater magical activity or into I'm saying post-surgical, but I'll just use theurgy because that everybody understands what that means. So you are using it to build that kind of inner luminosity. You can transmute it, but you're getting into increasingly difficult rites when you're talking about this. And really at the inner layer of Tantra, the rites all happen in your mind palace. I know everybody on TikTok and Twitter and everybody loves this idea of the mind palace, which comes from Buddhism, obviously.
Dude,
but
I haven't heard that word in 2 years. I don't know who came on to talk about that, but I had a discussion about the mind palace and setting up the mind palace, right? That's where your primary
ritual activity takes place in Tantra. Instead of how people would describe it as this great, as I said, it's not the transgressive sex magic that people think of it as.
It is
really right. It's about the mind palace.
Well, that's the astral temple.
Is your mind palace? Well, you can call it that too.
Whatever the calling is, exactly. Because you're doing your ritual within the mind. All the ritual out here is actually then placed within the mind at the same time. You know what I mean? So it's anyway.
Yeah, it's you have to fill your emptiness with yourself. But I wanted to say just on maybe some argument for servitors, which this isn't how I would go about it, but you can use servitors to reprogram your subconscious or something. And so there are ways that you could use it for
for good.
Yeah.
For good intentions. Yeah, absolutely. I think Judith said something earlier about she ended it with the intention of something. And it's something I usually touch on, haven't touched on in a while. We talk a lot about intention and how that's the key behind all magic, right? Or whatever you're doing, whatever kind of spiritual practice you do. But yeah, I agree. I concur.
Jules, I have a question about the woman you were talking about.
Yes.
Was she instructed how
I don't. So her name is Alexandra David Neal. Her and Annie Besant, I think they were acolytes of Blavatsky, and in Tibetan Buddhism, highly advanced monks are said to manifest as physical bodies or tulkus as extensions of themselves to help others. Oh, so there you go, Eros. Yeah, people are like creating these servitors to maybe help. I don't know. It may have been when I can't remember the guy's name, Nick, who came on to talk about Mithras. Alexander, or no, I think I'm just repeating this.
A little Polish dude.
I can't remember the guy's name, but I said something like, an army of Mithraic tulpas is basically what, like, these elite classes, these Venetian banking families and stuff, they were having their own Mithras cults. Because I believe that came later after the worship of Sabazius. I think that's hidden. We're not going to get off on that tangent, but yeah, no, I think she may have been studying with other, Hierophants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just say this really quick, Jules, about Alexandra David Neal. So she was technically the first Westerner to set forth in the border between Tibet and Nepal. Now, you can't really cross that overland route. Like in that time, it was basically considered impassable. So did she go to a valley that is technically on the Tibetan side? Yes. Blavatsky also said she went there, but it's very nebulous if she even went to China. We don't even know if she really was. When I'm talking China, like more than Shanghai, more than like the port. So but Alexandra David Neal did take a variety of series of famous Taoists. The pictures of famous Taoists and her travelogue is very well known. Now, would Tibetan monks explain to this, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say it, this white lady, rich white lady, like with like all these servants in Nepal? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think that's probably
around
true.
These monks. You're like, wait a
Let's
minute.
keep it real, actually.
Have servants.
But I think that there's also the reality is that Nepalese Buddhism is very much, although it's extremely esoteric, if you just go there and you sort of understand even a little bit by looking at the shrines, looking at their daily ritual worship, and looking at the iconography, because I have an art history background, so that's what obviously I draw from. So you can understand a great deal of the cosmology, of the practices, just through iconography alone. And a lot of people who have gone to Nepal have said this exact thing. So, I mean, I'm not the only one, and she's definitely not the only one. I think this is also true of Blavatsky. Like, she went there, she saw this scarlet woman. Obviously, they built her out in Tolima, in the OTO and in the Typhonian order, like into different ways.
What do you think about her adopting certain phrases and language of Buddhism in her works? And again, I'm certainly not defending her. I'm just curious about what you looked into about that.
For me, I actually consider it kind of dharmic. Like, this is how Dharma would, like a real Buddhism, not just like internet Buddhism, but maybe a real Buddhism. I don't know if I'm the arbiter of that, but I'm at least going to try. So I personally think that it is dharmic. You're introducing dharmic ideas into the West, whether it's an imperfect vehicle or not. Like, Dharma's axialist. So we're moving with the wheel. We're not looking to the past. We're not we was Kangen on the steeps, right? We're moving forward, whatever that means. This doesn't mean politically. It just simply means that we are moving with the aeon. So, and also the OTO. The OTO has a lot of dharmic ideas. Like, Crowley was deep in, like, whether that's Hatha Yoga or whether that's like normie Buddhism, there are dharmic ideas in that. So people can take of those things, and just like the great sage Ramak said, Rabbi Cordovero, you can plant a garden of pomegranates with those seeds. Yeah. So you can build your own trees, your own garden of knowledge, and the trees of life and death. You get to plant those in your own mind. So that's basically how I see it. I think that it's okay that they adopt language. Now, is their meaning like the deepest tantric inner, like, secret meaning? No, but that's okay. How would they even know that?
Yeah, and then to add to this, like Crowley himself, one of his great mentors in the Golden Dawn, and after was Alan Bennett, who basically went straight. He was, straight Buddhist, doing his thing, because it seems like ceremonial magicians go away from magic and then enter into Buddhism. And like that's where Alan Bennett was, that was his thing. And they also very sick with, for some reason, occultists seem to always get some kind of lung problem, and the only thing that he could do is like be away in his Buddhist monastery and just do that. And so it's fascinating how it deeply integrated into those things. And Blavatsky herself, with the vision and the voice, was known as one of the highest pessimists or maguses by Crowley himself. He thought that she was, doing some legit work as much as, slightly snake oil in the superstitious sense of what she was doing. My question is actually, how do you know you're like, I get the idea of the servitor and I understand it and these types of things, but then it's like, unless you're doing the science part of it, who's to tell you that you didn't do it? Like who's the arbiter of it being real or not? And then you just mistaking your psychosis for actual magic. And so that's something I wonder.
That's the whole thing when you start getting to sigil magic too. Like a lot of times people associate servitors with sigils. And I have even wondered about that, just like even like kind of like looking into, sigils myself from a scientific aspect. You could be actually technically imprinting yourself with probably whatever idea you have. And if it's like, if what you're doing is out of like, mine wasn't, luckily, but like if you're doing it out of like malice and hate and you're creating a servitor to go do something fucked up, it could be literally imprinting yourself with this.
You're losing yourself.
That just actually equates something nasty, and like, you're imprinting it on yourself. And I just
are you losing yourself, or are you shedding your lower nature into something and creating that?
I just wonder, how are you shedding something if you're evoking something in here to do your work instead of just magnetizing yourself with your own magic and thus I think that's the ultimate, that's the great work, instead of the lower understanding of principle magic. Like you're just, and so I think there's a big difference. Alan Chapman, I'm interviewing him next week, and Alan Chapman is like, what was it, Magia, and he's got some other work. And that's one of his biggest things that he's pushing, is that like you can go upon, that's my problem with chaos magic actually, and Peter Carroll himself, is that he wanted to discard the great work and just have it be some levels of the day-to-day magic. And if you see synchronicities and the mysteries, don't worry about it, just let it go, forget that it even happened. And I'm all like, that's not correct. Like we need to be making this better.
Well, we need to be also writing it down and recording it as well.
Yeah, of course.
Having these conversations and putting our synchronicities together to figure more things out, because I really think we could do that. More people should be doing that, right? Talking about their IRL experiences. Like it's
Yeah. I think it's tricky though when you start getting into that. Is it psychosis or is it magic? Like, what experiences are real with a thought form, or with like invoking your HGA or your daemon or whatever you're doing. A lot of people will even see like gods come to them or whatever if they're like pagan, right? Like if you have a patron or something like that. And how much of that is real? How much of that is just some sort of hallucination? Does it also really matter? And, do we have benefits from it, right? Because like even Jung, he would do the active imagination. That's what the whole Red Book is. So he would kind of set up like these scenes with these archetypes. And, that's kind of how he did it. Like he would go into this active imagination state and like meet with these archetypes and like resolve whatever he felt or he wanted to get out of that. It's like a very contained and structured way to do it, but there's a lot of different ways that people do it, and sometimes it's accidental and people will have these experiences that ends up leading them towards magic or studying these things. But it's kind of complex and it's hard to call a schizo, there could be benefit from any of it just dialectically as well.
Yeah, I hear you, Eris. I don't agree. And I don't agree because of the science part, is that like Crowley, when Rose was dictating him the beginning of when to, do his rituals, he put her up against massive amounts of test, which is why the Kabbalah is so brilliant, is that then you're testing these things and you're showing its relationship to the actual physical universe instead of it having be all up in the brain, which is my issue with panpsychism, is that it makes consciousness another thing instead of understanding that consciousness can be termed a relationship between things. So you're always intending something upon objectivity itself. And at the same time, Jung talks about synchronicities. And so the synchronicities are really important because those are another signpost for us to understand that the breadcrumbs are being laid before us. And so if I continue doing these works, as Crowley said himself, I shouldn't give any objective reality to the visions that I'm having, because that leads towards psychosis and levels of madness that we maybe not be able to swim out of. And so I think it's a fine line. Even Jung himself, with his active imagination and the Red Book, he kept it away from everybody because he assigned no validity to it, just like Crowley did with the Book of the Law. He threw that in an attic, was like, I don't know what the fuck to do with this. Most likely this is going to destroy my life, which for both of them, there was a distillation period, a blackening in their alchemy for them to come out of eventually. And so I think there's a difference, because a lot of the new agey type of magic occultism is falling towards an illusion of their own self-importance and egotism, and not understanding that they shouldn't appear to have any of their rituals be something that is any more than for their own personal development, and not have. Because then that's how you can see it. Is it getting better or is it not? How is my life? Is my life? Thank you, Jules. Exactly. So there's levels here that it's important to not to fall into, like the panpsychism thing. I'm going to push back, Brandon, because I actually agree with Eros. Yeah, Eros, you go ahead. It was pointed to you,
hey,
so you go.
Before I forget, can I ask Brandon something real fast? Brandon, have you read Jung's essay on Wotan?
I have. Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
okay, yeah.
It's great. It's great.
Well, right, I would say though, Crowley often, Crowley. He did that. Sorry, Crowley, breaking down of like these patterns that we already have, right? And through a lot of his rituals, and he didn't care whether that broke his students. A lot of his students did have psychosis, and like
that doesn't matter though. The students went under at their own will.
Well, right, and he also encouraged the HGA work, and so I mean, a lot of Thelemites do see plenty of things. So
what's your problem with the HGA working? Oh, let her answer.
I don't see any problem with it. I think that it's good. I'm just saying that, like, how is...
Sorry.
How is you seeing your HGA, like, how is that... How do you know that it's real?
The Holy Guardian Angel working, the Abramelin workings.
How do you know that you're not just hallucinating that? And why is that better than...
Well, I think you know it because you're not supposed to tell people of your rituals. So it doesn't no one should even know you're doing it besides the fruits, which is then your life hopefully putting itself back together. So then I'm going to jump in, Brandon, because I really am chomping at the bit here. I know you. I know you. Merc so unverified personal gnosis, UPG. Yes, I was thinking of the acronym. So if you have ever been on a magical forum, UPG is your worst enemy. This is any armchair magician knows this, right? And so Eros has this is a more Buddhist point where Eros is saying, you discard the klipas, you discard the aggregates, you discard the skandhas. You do not get stuck on the husk or the sheath. Yeah, because the Omer, the truth, is actually when the sheath is removed. But you need the sheath or the husk to contain what the truth is. You need the word. So it doesn't matter. I don't care. I side with Eros. I'm sorry. I understand this is a little different. This puts me in a little more of a heterodox
category compared to like a lot of the Western tradition. But I also think like Jung was doing magic, and like he understood fundamentally that you cannot take everything literally, because also literalism, not just unverified personal gnosis, but literalism is the great enemy of the magician. And you see this in the occult world. Nick and I have like a long text thread that is like so hilarious about, we don't really talk shit that bad, but it's a little bit.
Where's the disagreement here? Can you tell me where you're disagreeing with me? I don't understand.
Because I think that Eros is right, and that you discard a lot of the appearance existence. That's what we would call it in Buddhism. You would discard like those kind of things that you quote unquote experience. Now, I personally believe that there is experiences, Sephirotic experiences, tantric experiences. To me, that's all the same. Riding the aether, whatever you want to call it. I do think that there is a esoteric cartography, like DCS always says, David Heim Smith.
You actually can't use that term anymore. It's been trademarked by some bitch in France, just so you know.
Well, that's fine. I'm still going to use it. The reality is I do think that there is a way to both map and refer back to the Bina, back to the actual textual experiences of those places.
That's what I was saying.
That is real. But I don't, but Brandon, you're saying that like if a deity comes to you, for me, I think that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if a deity comes to me. I'm not interested in the deity.
Yeah,
maybe they'll have a cool message for me, and that's fine. And you know what? The next day I'm still going to get up, do puja, do my sadhana, do my, click clack on the mala. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to worry about what the deity told me. Now, maybe it has a synchronicity to my life, but I'm also not going to place great emphasis on those things, because my interest is non-dual knowledge.
Yeah, I don't see the difference. And if that's what Eris is saying, then I agree with her. I was just saying that there's something really important about not, that's exactly what I'm saying actually, is not to give validity to those things, but still write them down and understand how it may work through your life. Just like you should be writing down your dreams, just like Jules was saying, is we need to write all of our magic.
Use Hode, use analogical language to describe those things, but don't remember there's a klipa of Hode, there's a trap of Hode.
Of course,
is that you cannot use analogical language to describe the ineffable.
Hode, nice. Hode, the eighth
the blind son of Odin. Yeah,
it's the mercurial Sephira. Yeah, and Eros. I want to hear Eros. Where
interesting, because Odin's referred to as Mercury in Tacitus as Germania. So
strange.
Yeah,
yeah. Some people place.
I side with Jordan on this. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I do want to say this: you guys, we all should pay attention if you have visions or dreams, and you figure out later on that these things are coming true, and like, hey, I had this premonition, and like I should have listened to my gut, right? Like, always listen to your intuition.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway,
I actually just still don't see where the difference. Like, I can kind of see where the difference is, but I think we're actually maybe all agreeing in our own way.
Well, I don't even agree that there's an abyss. So that's
different. That's completely different. You can agree that there's no abyss. That doesn't mean that you don't experience despair and anxiety and angst, which is an abyssal ego disillusionment as you cross.
I'm talking about crossing the abyss experiences in a Sephirotic way.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't agree that the abyss is real. I think the 1 in 10 can be reconciled. I think the Aleph resolves that paradox.
It does.
So I do not believe that it's.
How do you get from the contradiction to the complementary?
You go back into Yesod, you go back into pristine mind, pristine consciousness, and then you you do. And then you become luminous.
I'll moderate it.
You become luminous.
We do this on the podcast.
Has a giveaway he's doing. Jordan,
and then you shoot the arrow of enlightened activity, and then go off into Kether, and that's
that's a great metaphor. I love that. That's a great story. And Jules, Jin and I do this on our battle cry. We battle cry against others, and we crush each other.
I would love to host a debate, dude. I really want to start hosting debates between people like people in the occult world and maybe like Christian conspiracy people. I'd love to start hosting debates, dude, because I've been caught in the middle, right? Like I did my first 2 years of my podcast as a Christian mystic, doing the whole conspiracy, all that stuff, and then learning more about the occult and esoterica and history, and having my, like I was saying, my own spiritual path, right there in front of me. It's something I can definitely be non-biased on. So
yeah, dude, that's a good idea. You should definitely do that. And just going back to something that I think you mentioned something about grifters and stuff at the start of the show, and just
conspiracy grifters, man, it's real.
Yeah. Me and Habsburg have a few we're kind of building a bit of a list of people that we
Habsburg, spill the beans, dude. You've been silent too long. What's up, man?
Well,
what do you think about all this? He's just like, these people are fucking crazy, Jordan.
I actually want to hear who Jordan calls a grifter.
Well, we just
there's something I do want to add.
Fuck it, like who cares?
Yeah, please.
You know?
Yeah.
We were just thinking, like, not necessarily in the conspiracy realm or the occult realm, but just general people who are pushing false narratives, or who are just bad faith actors or bad faith communicators, and just try to get them on and try to hold their feet to the fire.
Hope that's how I we're here.
There's one I don't know. There's one person we're trying to get on. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Paul Stammet. That's his name, right? Habsburg, Paul Stammet.
The mushroom guy.
You don't like Paul Stammet?
No, I can get into that if you're.
Is he connected to the CIA?
Habsburg has some.
Okay, all right. So that's what I was thinking. I do like his take on the mycelium. Me and my wife have experience IRL. The mycelium has talked to her. She's a clairvoyant, and a seerist, if you would. And she has communicated with the mycelium, and it's very ancient, dude. Like, it's been here for so long.
That's not exactly my issue with him.
I know. I'm just explaining my love, maybe for.
I've met the guy. I've chatted with him. He's like personally, said some things to me that, like, I knew, to be like not true, which was weird. But I think, in terms of, and I don't want to like steer this conversation in any, direction, because this is really like way off topic of what you guys are talking about. But I am like professionally involved in mycology and different aspects of it, and what he's doing with his like host defense product. And he's basically just like selling this really low grade snake oil that's fermented, not even fermented, it's just brown, it's brown rice flour.
I've heard
that he is growing like a thin layer of mycelium on, and then he's like making an extraction of brown rice flour, and he's basically like using his like credibility in the space, that he's like built through his appearances on Rogan and things like that. To get like commissioned to work on university like based studies, like in Washington State University and Pullman. He directed a study to basically like vet that mycelial extracts are more potent than extracts made from fruiting bodies. Although like it's really like disingenuous and like low integrity, because the study that he developed was based on mycelium grown in a liquid culture and extracted like pure mycelium from that liquid culture, versus being grown on a large mass of a substrate of rice flour. So like it's two totally different things, and he's getting paid to set up that study to like vet out his conclusion that he wants to endorse his product with. And it's not even like a correlative of like the what he's making his product with. So I hope that makes sense, and it sounds like some of you guys are actually familiar with what I'm talking about as regards to the host defense product. But yeah,
I hope this is not superfluous conspiratorial or question or idea, but in regards to him, he mentioned portobello mushrooms and how he couldn't speak on it. I wonder, as a mycologist, what do you know about that?
That's a good question. I think that like some of that is, kind of like salacious stuff that, is kind of being used to kind of like entice the audience on Rogan. But the truth is that like the portobello. So, as y'all might or might not know, portobello mushrooms are Agaricus bisporus, which is the same mushroom as like a button mushroom, as a cremini, as a portobello. It just describes like different stages of growth, a button being at the youngest stage, a cremini being in a mid stage, and a portobello being at the largest stage when it's harvested. And what I can speak to is that industry, like there are ties to organized crime, like the farms. It's basically like all centered in Pennsylvania, and the whole industry, and that there are some of these like large scale productions are tied in with organized crime. And I don't know that that's exactly what he's talking about, but that is a fact of that industry.
It's not that they have like bioaccumulative toxins.
I can't speak to that, and I wouldn't want to speculate because
and I ask ignorantly.
Yeah.
Part.
No. It's a good question.
Joe Rogan is probably a Fed. I don't like the Fed jacket people,
right.
But dude, come the fuck on. And now he's starting to talk about the Book of Enoch and this, and it's like, dude, what are you doing? It's kind of like Tucker Carlson being like, well, I don't know what this is. and then, but like he used to wear the Kabbalah bracelet. Jen probably knows. Right. Like he used to wear the red bracelet.
Absolutely.
And he now is denying he knows anything about Judaism or like this ancient. I'm like, dude, you are an actor, just like Alex Jones, just like Candace Owens, just dude, like all these people
talk about grifters. Yeah.
So when your ideas start to kind of, when the mainstream starts to align, do you go, well, this means I'm right? Or do you go, well, maybe I should reassess?
Yeah.
Maybe we should,
But to the degree that a lot of the times, like the whole like ploy of this like mind war or psyops or whatever, is that like they seed enough truth that it's compelling, with enough bullshit to make it like, confounding.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I'm going to be honest, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and these characters are also, and I think it's naive of us to say that they're only doing bad things. There are a lot, if you're actually watching their interviews, there's a lot of amazing things being said, and it's good because it crosses the exoteric boundaries where the normgroid, right, the normie out there needs somebody to help speak their language so they can understand the amount of chaos that's being spread at this moment. And if you listen to Tucker's Kevin O'Leary talk, even with Sean Stone, me and Nick did, like Tucker didn't say anything actually wrong. He's a great interviewer who's leading people. Most likely Tucker's I think he's a Mason, and that's fine. I to be honest, I watch all his stuff and I'm like, fuck man, like that Kevin O'Leary thing with the AI databases, like we really need somebody to be pushing the other narrative as Tucker's been doing about how bad these things are for everyone. So to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and we'll find ourselves in the exact same situation we're already in. And that is,
I hear you,
without a paddle.
You have Candace Owens calling the government.
We can have decent people asking these questions.
Gypsies, and then labeling them. And
then the occult is bad to people who don't understand symbolism, and that's just the way it is, and that's the way it's always been. And so to think that it's going to go mainstream and then it's like happy utopian days, that's not how life works. There's no utopianism. Right. It's never going to be a utopia. So we need these kind of people, no matter. That's then why we're around, so we can also make videos that counterbalances the narrative of like these individuals who are more exoteric Christians or Muslim or whatever it is, so we can set it straight. And that's that's how I
well, I mean, we're in a post parapolitics era.
I
think we all kind of recognize this, and I think Jules has a point. I think Brandon has a point. I think I don't really discuss parapolitics myself. There are conspiracies, there are like real deep politics behind political events. Does someone who's like unfamiliar with their sort of you could say ritual grammar, are they really knowing what's going on? Are they getting like briefed? Probably not.
Yeah.
So for me, I just don't put my like attention, focus, my perception, my hesed, my loving kindness. I don't put my shit into that. Mm-hmm. I don't give that egregore or tulpa power. I just restrict myself in that way. So for me, what I think is interesting about what Brandon's saying, and like Brandon and I are friends, like be clear, like I've given him a lot of shit tonight, but like we do this a lot. And so the, you know, the reality is like, yeah, there are going to be people who are bad actors who that's part of magic. It's like you're going to have people who get so lost in their own bullshit, their own klipas, their own like misconceptions of the way they think the world is. Plus, there are people who deliberately poison the water. All magicians also do this. Crowley does this. All Kabbalists do this. Like everybody does it. Jung did it in the Red Book. Like, I mean, Eros and I just did like 2.5 hours discussing like many instances where you can look at the Red Book and say like there are deeper layers than just the literal layer, and which he would be very comfortable with us looking at. So it's like, what level of like reality are you trying to discern, look at, understand? And ultimately, that's why I say that magic mostly happens in your mind.
Yeah.
Because I think we are the most in control. Like that is our sphere of influence. Like I know at the very beginning of the show, Jules brought up like the genus loci, like the spirit of the land. Well, in a Buddhist idea, the way to engage or interact with that genus loci is through getting your own mind right. Because if you go and try and deal with that spirit when you're like full of like, okay, so a lot of occultists are depressed or like emo or goth, like, or, you know, or like whatever. If you go with those negative emotions, that deity, that spirit, whatever you want to call it, they are going to appear. That doesn't necessarily mean they are. They could be like a negative entity or demonic quote. I'm using air quotes, but like,
no,
you know, get your mind right first. That's I'm not dismissing the existence of like what people perceive or what people interact with, but it really starts in your own mind. If you're wild in your mind, the spirits are going to appear wild before you.
Yeah.
Especially with the elementals.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Jen. That's exactly how it's. So get your own mind, and that's what the massive problem with the occult community is a lot of people doing this work are fucking crazy people that have daddy and mommy issues that haven't been able that hate the patriarchy and, you know, or like wanting to bring us back. What do you call it, Jen? Back to the longhouse or the bathhouse?
You have to reject both the longhouse and the bathhouse. You don't want women to rule you, and you don't want old guys to try and fuck you.
Yeah, boom. Yeah, Don DeMarco. No Epstein Island here, right? That's
So there was one thing I did want to add, and we kind of went back to it again. Thankfully, Jen kind of brought us back there, the whole stuff with the mind.
Servitors.
This kind of is it's kind of like, I wouldn't say it might throw a monkey wrench in what we were all talking about earlier, or kind of leave you even more confused. But I do think it's something that's very important to look at. And I've been kind of covering it on my Mechanics of Magic series because I think it is extremely important, especially for magicians, to understand certain things. And basically what I'm doing with the series is that I am picking a lot of common things that are used during ritual magic or stuff that we use as magicians when we do our rituals, and even covering kind of like initiations or your intent, which I'll get to in a second. That's a whole other mindfuck. But almost every single thing that we use, incense, a singing bowl, meditation, scrying, candles, a lot of things. I even have other stuff coming out, drums, you know, certain music. Every single one of those will actually affect your nervous system. A lot of the herbs that we use, a lot of them will affect like 2 to 3 of your cranial nerves, and some of them will affect your vagus nerve, and that goes from your throat all the way down basically to your reproductive system. That's a huge area that you can feel sensations or different things going on. You have candles, and at a certain rate of flickering, it will produce, it doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, where you are, how old you are, you will produce the same hallucinations. And they have also started to notice that in a lot of cave art, if you match that same flicker rate, the cave art will look to see if it animates. And then they've even noticed that a lot of those even will have, and I find this interesting, a lot of the common things that people will see from the flicker rate is spirals, checkered patterns, sacred geometry, starbursts. And you'll see a lot of those type of things even thrown into the cave art. So now they're even wondering, were those even the hallucinations, things that they were seeing from the flicker rate and incorporating into the art? Because like, I did see that. something like that. Singing bells. I want to touch on all these just like real quick to give a real solid idea. The singing bell, if you happen to use that like to start off your ritual, which I think Judith would even remember, there was a place that we went to a lot that would start off the rituals like that. By the time that bell is done ringing, you have been focused on that so much that when it's done, basically you're super focused now, and whatever happens coming next is going to be intensified with your nervous system. What else? Even a ritual intention. We mentioned intention before. This is a whole mind fuck in itself. Once you put yourself into intention, your mind, now anything that happens is going to have to correlate within that system that you just constructed. So it might not even have to lie to you because it may not even be correct. But now it has to go by, I want the answer to fit this is because I have expectations of X, Y, and Z coming from what I just did.
Right.
With scrying. I just want to like really start to show a point here. So now you've gotten the hallucinations from the candle. You're getting physical changes from the herbs, and then with scrying, and this is even another thing in initiations, because there's been an experience where I've just been with one candle in darkness. When you have stuff like that and you're in darkness, especially even float tanks, your body will not quite understand where it ends now because it can't see. So now your nervous system can start heightening. With scrying, and then like if you have a candle, or especially with scrying regardless, because it is normally just kind of like a polished thing. It's not totally clear. If you use a bowl of water, it's not totally clear. If you use that stone, it's not polished fully. When you start to look at it, even though you're looking at yourself, your brain will be seeing that there's things missing because it's not a perfect reflection, and it will just fill it in with stuff. And sometimes it just fills it in with whatever the fuck it feels like. So then you start to see shit that's really not there. Gans flicker will do that as well. Those paranormal goggles that people be going out to and doing paranormal experiments that will make you hallucinate.
Those aren't the Dionysus glasses?
Oh, yes. Oh. So like now what I'm getting at with this whole thing is that like all these things are actually affecting us, like seriously. So how do we know what the fuck is real and what's not? How do we know, or what we're all doing is supposed to put our body into a state to maybe receive something or to do something else? But all those things, the amount of shit, even scientifically provable that I'm showing in these things, how they affect us, it's like you have to start wondering, even with the sigils, the flashing colors that we're taught to use in the Golden Dawn in Thelema, those flashing colors have been studied. They pull on your cones differently because of the colors, and it actually does shit to you. These motherfuckers knew this shit somehow.
When it goes into like how they then use all that for MK Ultra to control people, to put their nervous system and to put their whole being into a state of imprint vulnerability, the same things that what you're talking about, as well as LSD did to people in those times, and even to this day.
What is a color fundamentally? In a Kabbalistic way, we would say that a color is just the name of light. If the universe is primarily made of light, which is also sound is how you capture space. This is the great mistake, in my opinion. I know everybody hates me on Twitter for saying this, and that's fine. It really is. But the truth is like the Western tradition forgot about the fifth element, which is really space. Now, how do you traverse space? Well, you have to use sound. So you have to use the sound of the word, as I posited. Baby. Exactly. So you're talking about the word, again, logos, the idea, the intention, all of that's covered in that idea. So I would say, instead of like saying MK Ultra, Brandon, like what Nick is saying, you can use the colors to get there, wherever there it really is, like wherever that closest to primordial truth layer is. But you can also use the colors to understand where you are in that experience. And so that's my personal experience, rather than like gods or spirits or the klipas and the shells or whatever it is. I saw colors. I see colors. I associate colors with certain words now, with certain kinds of music. This is a very common experience. I've discussed it with Nick, like probably, I don't know, Nick, like 100 times on the show, on Rejects, like so many times, because this is like a real magical experience. Like when you're getting rid of like all the extraneous bullshit, and maybe that is partly letting go of some of the ritual elements as well. In my opinion, that is, but it's like to prepare you like Nick is saying, like to use the ritual technology to get you in the state where you're going to be able to go higher. But those individual components by themselves, maybe someone who's accidentally like just practicing magic because they want to like win the lottery or whatever, like some like very worldly thing, which is not necessarily bad, but I'm not making a judgment anyway. But I'm saying that maybe what those do is they just prep you, you learn the flashing colors, and then when you have the experience, you then can use the flashing colors to sort of reverse engineer the esoteric cartography.
Yeah, I love that. No, I completely agree. And as you're saying that, it goes hand in hand with Crowley's John St. John workings and his idea that when you are truly taking every experience as if it's your interaction with God, you see God in all things. Thus, in a certain way of like with the tarot and the major arcana, when you're studying it, then when you're walking, like you say with colors, it's the same thing. When you see these colors, it brings up this experience. When you see a car drive by, you see the chariot. When you see a couple walking hand to hand, you see the lovers. I think there's a very important way for us to bring magic into the embodied experience instead of leaving it for the magic to be done to us, or it's an all just in here type of thing, which then can't be really, there's some kind of fallacy to that.
When you have a tornado, it's the elementals, it's the sylphs and like the Undines battling each other, or it's the gods, it's thunder is Thor beating his hammer, waves, right? And this is just in certain kind of mythologies, right? Raves, which there was a god of raves. Waves are ran like, being very hostile, but like, you have this all in, in every culture. So I think that's one way of seeing God in nature. Right. That's how I first kind of started to have my little esoteric experiences with the elementals, and especially when it rains, but we're not going to go into that.
No, I'm sorry, Jules. I didn't mean to jump in. Like,
no, you're fine. You're fine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, but I was going to say the tornado is actually a great Kabbalistic metaphor because the element of air is invisible, but we know it exists. So it picks up velocity. But the problem with a tornado really isn't the tornado itself. It's that it picks up the debris, the aggregates, the materials, the rocks, the sparking energy. Sometimes you'll see lightning emerge from very severe tornadoes or hurricanes even, because it's sparking between the material objects like a flintlock. So very Gevuratic. But, so the problem with air or with any of the elements is not the element itself, it's the aggregations. Now, to use more metaphorical language,
collateral damage, basically.
Exactly. Our perceptions, our misperceptions. What do we think the air is? Do we associate it with, like, I'm thinking of like the Wizard of Oz and like this, the house and the witch and all of the things are sucked into the vortex, right? Like, is the wind those actual material objects, or is the wind the thing we can't see? Well, that also can be a metaphor for space or akasha, which is also within our minds. So I would say, like, clear the bullshit. Like, and I know you agree with this, Jules, and it's a great metaphor because the primary Kabbalistic metaphor for like understanding all reality, for understanding God, if you want to call it that, like capital G God, I'm not talking paganism, but sure. That's fine. I know everybody doesn't love when I go like more anti-pagan. That's fine.
No, I love it. Do it.
Well, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying, it fundamentally doesn't matter because what Jules is saying is correct. The primary way to understand is through the metaphor of ice and water or lightning. Watching the stable ocean of lightning appear before you, like visualizing that experience in your mind. That is the code of the lightning flash. If you are able to remember that experience of witnessing lightning across water and you walk away from the lake or the ocean or whatever body of water you experience that, and you can remember that, that is the closest to quote unquote God that we can achieve in this like quote unquote material body. I'm not saying we can't have higher experiences. Of course we can. And we shouldn't conflate the phenomenological aspect of that with God itself. So it's not that he is the lightning strike. It's not that he's causing the lightning strike. It is that it's in our perception of the lightning strike. We are the witness to creation and destruction at the same time. Anyways, that's my definition of magic. I'll shut up now.
Love that. Boom. Nailed it.
Well, why don't we can start wrapping up, but before we do that, let's go around one more time. Let everyone tell the audience, listeners, all that, where they can find them, their social medias, website, books, any of that kind of stuff. It's been great. This chat's been really good, guys. I've really enjoyed it. I hope we could do it
This
again.
was a fun show, man. Thanks, Jordan.
Yeah, I really enjoy learning the shit that you guys are into. It's a lot for me, but it's so interesting, and I always do want to hear more. So
we're all mad here, bro. We're all mad here.
Yeah, man. I love it though. I love it, and I'd love to do this group thing again. But Brandon, Eros, Loon, and Jin, I'd love to get you guys on the show, and we can kind of do some more deeper stuff into individually what you guys do. But yeah, why don't we go around? We'll go around the table. We'll start with you there, Julian the Apostate. Where can everyone find you? All your stuff, whatever you want to get into, man.
Oh,
go for it.
Well, I'm not going to get into too much because it would.
Oh, come on now.
I'd ramble on. Let's just say, guys, if you want to support the show, go over to patreon.com/greypilledpodcast. You can get Gods of the Morning Wood, and it comes with Morning Wood. About 60 episodes now. We're at 60 episodes deep, and Nick is a big part of a lot of those episodes. I think Ethan may have made it to one. Ethan, you're always welcome. All you guys are, to be honest. And I've told this to everyone. Saturday is going to be a banger. We have we're doing Prose Edda. So Prose Edda and something else. I think it's some other treatise, maybe. The Secret Destiny of America by Manly Palmer Hall. We're going to be beginning that. So, and then next, Occult Cinema is Zeralat Eternal and Stein Fox from the Greyhorn Pagans. We'll be doing that. And that's a Patreon show as well. So go over to Patreon if you want to support the show. We have call-ins now to the show. You can call in and all that good stuff. Yeah, Nick, I got it, dude. I got it. We're starting to do it.
That's cool.
The only person called in was Meat Cavern. That's expected. So, so far. But yeah, guys, go check out the episode from yesterday with Crow 777. He displayed all of his past footage, which I had seen over the years, but I when listening to him on other podcasts, I never connected, the dots. And so it blew my mind a little bit. Shout out Crow, shout out Rose. We had a great conversation before and after the show. They'll definitely be coming back on soon. I also talked to them about coming on the Reject soon. And I'm going to get Brandon, his co-host. I'm going to get him to come on. I last night met a fellow adept, and he runs the Paranormal Esoteric Association of Mississippi. I don't know if I got it right there, but he is a part of a local lodge. But he's very cool dude, and we hung out. Me and my wife went to the local axe throwing bar down the street last night, and so I will be doing live paranormal investigations on Grey Pilled soon. I've already talked about this, and I hadn't met anyone who had done it yet, and all of a sudden this guy comes up. I had my Grey Pilled shirt on with the alchemy lion on the back eating the sun, and he comes up and he goes, "Oh, I love your shirt," and then comes over. I see his fucking ring already, and I'm like, okay, well, this guy is an initiate, whatever. I'm not going to get into it, but good guy. And he's already been doing this. He was talking about going to this one place with an obelisk he had created and conducting this energy there and stuff, and they were recording it, but they don't have a place to stream it. And I was like, well, fuck me, silly dude. So yeah. That's something coming to Grey Pilled hopefully soon. I had already brought it up, but I had no plan to do it. So now it may actually fucking happen. That's how synchronicities line up and plans work out. But guys, follow me on Twitter at greypilledpod. I told you not to let me go for too long, Jordan.
I was going to say, man, never doubt yourself.
Instagram, YouTube, Rumble. I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me on tonight, man.
Of course, man. It's always a pleasure, buddy.
Greypilled.print.
You're up.
Okay, so thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Habsburg, Jolly West. Appreciate you, Cardinal Electric Head, of course, Boss, Mr. 93. Been working with Nick for almost, I think, 3 years now, and like it's been quite an amazing podcast journey for me.
Maybe even longer.
Thank you. Maybe a little longer. Yeah, like 3.5.
Yeah.
Of course, Brandon, Ethan, Eros up. Eros is my co-host. She's also a member of our Grey Lodge, like group chat. She's like, I would consider her like my spiritual sister in a way, and like just an important figure for me. Like I learn a lot from like her perspective on like her materials, because I don't know anything about the Western tradition really, and I would never say I did. Or in astrology. I'm more of a tantric astrologer. I understand it more through metaphor and through the Sephira, like the Yetziradic astrology, rather than practical astrology. So so, and of course Judith the Loon. We are my lodge mate in Mott, because I think everything comes down to the middle path, comes down to balance, comes down to the art of synthesis, and also reconciliation or rectification. I think those are the important like keywords for the Aeon. So maybe instead of like fully plugging my show, of course, follow us at the Grey Lodge at youtube.com at Threshold Saints. I almost gave the old one. I apologize. Threshold Saints. And that Threshold Saints is basically, if you just type it in, you can find it on everywhere, on everything. My Linktree is at Threshold Saints. I have lots of really interesting episodes coming out, one with Eros. I have Dharma episodes coming out with Solar, who's another co-host. I have more Dark Souls, the continuation of the Dark Souls series with Joshua, who's another co-host. And I have lots of people coming on, and I think it'll be a really cool season. So, and then the Grey Lodge, we're doing Apophenion Part 2 this Friday, live, Gnostic Mass, although it's book club. And then next week, we are continuing our Thai sorcery and the sinister traditions of Southeast Asia series. So we just did our first one, Lurcy, on Friday night. So if you are interested, you can easily like go check that out. None of our channels are monetized or anything like that. It's just like totally Platonic, discursive, like magic and dialogue. So it's very like chaos magic, very aeonic, and people can absolutely check that out. So I really appreciate it. Thank you guys all so much. Super generative conversation.
Right on. Thanks, Jim. Brandon, my friend, you're up, brother.
Great. Well, yeah, this was fantastic. Thank you, Jordan, for having us all on. There's not much to be said besides, when you get a bunch of occultists in a room, how many of us does it take to screw in a light bulb? Well, there was no light to begin with. We're all searching through the darkness, trying to pull ourselves out of the cave is kind of how it feels. And so we're never all going to agree on anything because we all have different nervous systems. However, it seems like there are these universals that we all can kind of tap into, and we know that we're trying to do what it is. And what it is we're trying to make ourselves better. We're trying to get our language straight. We're trying to be good and virtuous humans. And it doesn't matter what your magical practice is, as long as it's doing that for you, then you are on the path. As they say in Buddhism and Mahayana, or whichever yanas they have, it's that there are many vehicles, that lead us on that path and of awakening. And I think that's really important. And so I appreciate every single one of you on here. I love the rejects. Thank you, Nick, Nick and Jin was my first conversation on the rejects. They brought me on, and they haven't been able to get rid of me ever since. And so, Nick, Jin, Eros, Judith and Jules and Ethan, I am going to do shows with every single one of you. Jen and I are bringing back the battle cry on Wednesday evening. We're going to be taking on everybody, as well as I'm dropping a bunch of interviews. Ethan and I are going to be doing our Tai Chi work again. It's just we're trying to find the right time as the world falls into chaos. We're all just doing what we can. If you haven't already, everyone subscribe, like, and share to every single one of these beautiful people. So that's basically all I got. Myth, magic, meaning. That's why we're here. Thank you.
Love it, man. Love it. Nick.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us on. I really had a blast. I thought it was great that we
could
get everybody on and they could showcase, what they're all about and stuff. The Occult Rejects is on BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, all major podcasts. I do have the occultresearchinstitute.org. That's a website. And I do have a Substack for the Occult Rejects. You could just look for the Occult Rejects. One thing I do just want to plug real quick is, since people were plugging their stuff, The Mechanics of Magic series, like I was mentioning before, I highly suggest that for people to check out. One thing I do also just want to say with that, I do think it's good for a conspiracy theorist or a magician to listen to, but what I'm trying to do with that is also not discredit magic. I'm actually like trying to prove a point, and I think it's a little bit like what my man over here, Magus, was saying. I think we put ourselves in these situations so we can put ourselves in tune for something greater than us. Or that's, hopefully the end result. So, check that out. And I am doing something that's rather probably interesting coming from an occultist, but I'm trying to prove a point, and I think it's just really good with even history and stuff. But I have started, and I'm still continuing. I did a pretty big deep dive on the history of Christianity, and I've covered a lot of Christian sects and from the past, and I'm trying to show, how that came to be, the people that dictated it. And then I am doing, me sound crazy, but it is I have 4 parts done now out of 18. I have 18 shows already to record to prove that even Christian architecture and the way it's set up is all ritual technology. So, I'm just trying to maybe show or prove a point, like you may not all be that different from us. Stuff, kind of.
Oh yeah, dude. All the churches are built on top of pagan temples too. Shout out the Occult Rejects, man.
Yeah, man.
Fucking love all my people on here, and it's I'm sorry I can't make as many shows as I used to, Nick. It's just been busy lately, but promise to try and make more.
But yeah, I just think it's a good thing to show, even history wise, or just even showing you how there's even, again, I do try to put academia in there, even showing you how these churches and all, even the baptism, that isn't an initiation. You're doing an initiation just to become allowed to be a part of that church. That's no different than me doing a first degree initiation to get into the OTO, for real. And something I just want to throw this in there, not to drag it on like everybody else, but fuck it. When it comes to people who like to talk shit about occultists and initiations and rituals and want to get into the whole thing with, I do understand that I think getting naked can be very weird, but something I don't think Christians realize, that back in the day, for you to join that church, you were going to be outside, probably in front of a bunch of people, because you got to profess in front of people, of course. You were going to have your clothes taken off you. You're going to walk into the body of water, and then they're going to give you another pair of clothes to put on. And then you're going to walk out. You just got fucking stripped naked in front of a bunch of fucking people in order for you to join the church. You got to chill the fuck out with some of the shit you guys come at us with. Look at your own past. You're not much different than the rest of us. So that's what I'm just, trying to maybe some open-minded ones might not say unite, but, maybe we could work together instead of you guys always pointing the fingers at us.
Or just taking what you say and just turning it around and, losing all the context that you even ever.
It's not all dicks and demons. Your own people even believe that.
Well, I mean, I don't want to offend anybody, but, when you talk about the baptism, I mean, it's really that, death and rebirth that, so many rituals are based on. Like, I mean, is that not the same as what they do in the coffin at Skull and Bones?
Absolutely, dude.
It's really the same thing. But anyway,
yeah.
I hope that didn't offend anybody out there that's listening.
Who gives a fuck if it does? Habsburg Jolly West, dude.
We gotta discuss.
Yeah, people need to get the fuck over it. They need to get out their bubble, and that's what I think all of us on here have in common is we're open to talk about anything and everything. The literal question everything, not just the trope or cliche phrase that the conspiracy people use. Like actually, even your own, make it uncomfortable. Make me uncomfortable.
Hey, dude, that's why that's why I got kicked off this stream when I was talking about Tucker and the narrative weavers.
What stream?
I got cut off and like kicked out of StreamYard like while we were doing
Oh
the
yeah,
show.
that
While I
happened.
was, like
That happened to me.
in mid sentence, you know.
Yeah, that happens
So,
all the time. StreamYard's
yeah.
bad with that.
Yeah. Well, it's whoever's listening to us. They're like,
Okay.
oh, get this guy out.
Get this guy out of here.
Get this guy out of
Call
here.
it
He called out Paul Stamets. Get this guy out of
You
here.
can always come on the Occult Rejects or any of our shows, man, and talk about, if you have questions,
Yeah, we'd love to come
appreciate that.
on sometime. That'd be cool.
Definitely.
So you can move on.
You're all good, Nick. Cool, brother. Judith, the loon.
Thank you. Nick, you forgot your site.
Oh, no, I think I did mention it. It was
Occult
before I
Rejects
started.
Institute.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, Occult Research Institute. Yeah, Occult Research Institute.org, in case I did forget. Thank you.
I'm sorry. It's gonna be brief. I focus. You can find me on Spreaker, YouTube, and X as the Loon. I focus more on what I call magic recovery, the baseline of the foundation of what you need to work on for yourself: meditation, gratitude, mindfulness, and I hit some topics. I do the weekly brunch every Sunday, and I talk about different topics. And I have some upcoming more focused work coming up, but I don't want to say anything yet till they're done because, life gets in the way.
Fair enough. Right on. Ethan, you're up, my friend.
Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys, Jordan, Habsburg. Thank you. And everyone, Nick, thank you so much for putting all the wonderful people together. And I've learned so much by interacting with all the wise participants, all the fellow cult rejects, and all the guests. So I thank you. And I thank you all for all your knowledge and wisdom. Ethan Indigo Smith, easy to find on all the social media. I have a couple of websites, Matrix of Four, Geometry of Energy. Definitely check those out. And all my recent articles too are on occultresearchinstitute.org. And yeah, more. Oh yeah, I also wrote marijuana marijuana and the prohibition of the divine feminine, which I'm really proud of. And my main goal in that is to change the cultural BS that has been repeated for so many decades now of what is the oldest profession. And we all know what it is, and it's really insulting to all people, let alone all women. And I propose that the oldest profession is nursing, and nursing having the dual meaning of motherhood and the provider and the care provider. So thanks for bringing that up.
Nice. Okay. Eros.
Eros, you're muted.
Oh my gosh, I'm so
There
sorry.
you go. No, you're all good. You're all good.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks for having me on. I feel like that was the quickest 2 hours of my life.
Yeah, that blew by.
But yeah, I'll plug a couple things. You can find me on YouTube at Eros Up, which I mentioned before. I have like my esoteric interview series where I interview like occultists and kind of just dig into their practices. I've interviewed Jin and Ethan on this panel, and those were really good. So I encourage everybody to go check those out if they're interested, and also just interested in those like Jin or Ethan and their practices or books. And I also have like my meta discussions and my studies. I came out with a video, I think last week, called the Manifestations of Projection. And I'm going to be releasing a Substack article about that here soon, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. Just going into that a lot more in depth, because after the video, I was like, wow, this is like kind of information heavy and kind of hard to follow through audio. So I figured I would put out a written version of it so people could reread things, and because I wanted to go even deeper into it. So that's all I have. But thanks for inviting me, Nick. Thanks, Jordan, for having us on.
For sure. Nice to meet you. Habsburg, what about you, my friend? Any final words?
No, it was a fun time. I appreciate you guys joining us. I follow most of you guys on Twitter, and definitely like listen to your show, Nick. And I really enjoyed getting to interact with y'all. And I'll be going Bulldog against Paul Stamets here real soon. So. Oh, that was fun to get to talk about a little bit, and this was a good time, man. Thank y'all for joining us.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, guys. We'll have to do this again sometime. Talk about anything. I mean, yeah, we can get off topic, whatever. I mean, all of us obviously have a lot of interesting different backgrounds and different interests. So yeah, who knows where it could go. So. But yeah, thank you guys all for your time. Appreciate everyone in the chat. Thanks to everyone listening and watching, all of our subscribers and supporters. Make sure to please subscribe to the Divulgence Podcast as well as the Occult Rejects. You can get Divulgence on YouTube, Rumble. You can get our audio on Spotify, Apple, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. And that's pretty much it. Other than, like I did mention, we are giving away a free brand new iPad with a case. So if you we're trying to get us up to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So,
dude,
y'all
fucking do
so
it.
everyone
Blackmail people.
Yeah, that's right, man. Fuck it. We're gonna beat them at the
create servitors to come after you if you don't subscribe.
That's hilarious. Nice.
Yeah.
Our cult is after you.
Subscribe and screenshot it, and then when the time comes, we'll tell you where to send it, and
nice.
That'll be the main
Awesome,
prize,
man.
and then we'll do a couple backup prizes like some books or something like that, or something cool. But we'll figure it out. But this was great, guys. I'd love to see you guys again in some form or another. But wishing you guys the best, and we'll talk soon. Good luck with everything, guys.
Peace.
Cheers.